Nintendo won. Like, absolutely. I didn't get to react to the Nintendo Direct because, I was doing things. But I saw, like, some of the images on X. I saw some of the images on 4chan. Like, I saw, like, the reaction to this thing. And it's like what I've been saying for the longest time, ever since they first unveiled this thing. This is going to be a huge release. Like, not like some minor little like thing. This game is gonna stop Expedition 33. It's gonna stop like every other like Game of the Year contender. This game is gonna be played and remembered for decades because of what they're doing with the character, what they're doing with the world, and like what they're doing with the gameplay. This is absolutely going to go down, I think, as one of the best Nintendo games of the past decade, if not like, ever. Like, this is the glorious return of Donkey Kong we've been awaiting since Donkey Kong 64. Like, I love returns, but it never did feel like those games were like, the big next gen evolution of Donkey Kong. This feels like it. Nintendo is finally treating Donkey Kong like their A-list guy again. And Rareware is just seething. Like, oh man, why don't people come out for our mascot platformers? Well, maybe because you don't try to make them, okay? Enough about Banjo 3. You should have been, like, making, like, the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. Like, you should have been growing and evolving your brand alongside Nintendo's. This is why Nintendo has long surpassed Rareware as a video game developer. In the 90s, they were about on the same level, but Nintendo has demonstrated that they are able to grow and evolve in ways that Rareware and like every other Microsoft or PlayStation developer can never even hope to accomplish. The fact of the matter is, Donkey Kong Bonanza surpasses The Last of Us without even really trying. And that's like my big takeaway with this, because when you really ask people like why they like The Last of Us, it always boils down to this like, well, I want to protect the little girl. I want to be a big, strong father figure to this child. And then like you have like, Bonanza coming out, which does that, but like better, makes it more interesting. The characters are more fun. There's more gameplay aspects to it. Like, again, looking at this game, you can tell, like it's just oozing soul. Like, this is something fresh, new, and exciting. You can't simply brush this under the rug like they tried to do with, like, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom or Fire Emblem Engage or, like, New Horizons. Like, this is, I think, like, the glorious return of Donkey Kong to, like, the AAA scene. Like, this is, I think, like the natural result of downplaying the brand for so long. Like, because Donkey Kong's technically been back since like the returns games came out, which essentially amounts to him not really going anywhere. But like, at the time, people really downplayed and ignored those games. That and Tropical Freeze, and like tried to say like the games were stale and derivative and outdated, which wasn't true. But with like Bonanza, like we are reaching the point where it is becoming impossible to downplay Nintendo games, the games like this, the way that they have been traditionally. Because people used to complain about the visuals, the animations, and the stories, the lack of voice acting, and that's not something that Bonanza is really doing. If anything, it's people are kind of amazed by the fact that it does seem to have like some form of voice acting, and that it does have a story, and like some of the changes to the characters. Like, this is a real evolution of the character and the brand, and you can tell that they put a lot of thought into how it works, because it is absolutely something that they put a lot of work into. The whole idea of like being underground kind of invokes that feeling of being in a mine, in the original Donkey Kong. It has its own unique theme, it has its own unique idea. It has like all of these crazy mechanics that just blend together so well. It's just going to be phenomenal when this game finally comes out, and I'm so excited that like so many people are going to realize just how cool Donkey Kong has always been. So much more so than something like, say, Sonic the Hedgehog or Crash Bandicoot. That was actually what I was seeing, like, before this direct went live, was that people have been like trying to make Crash Team Racing a thing again. It's not going to happen. People were trying to say it was better than Mario Kart World, and they spent less money on it, even with the microtransactions. Nobody cares. Like, okay, like just stop. You're embarrassing yourselves. They've been doing this since the 90s. And honestly, like, it's been continuing since this day. I'm old enough where I remember where, like, people were trying to tell you that the original Donkey Kong countries were not that good and were overrated Super Nintendo games, which obviously is ridiculous looking back on it now. But to think that something as, like, culturally ubiquitous and, like, as iconic as, like, Donkey Kong Country would be downplayed by the gaming community, that really just goes to show you just how desperate they are to, like, kind of write off these releases. And Bonanza is a really interesting situation in which I feel that no one is going to be able to get away with this. No one's going to be able to say that they don't recognize Donkey Kong or don't care about him or aren't excited about, like, the possibilities of this game. Like, it's just been this really embarrassing, just kind of like silence from the community because they can't run their mouths about this. They can't, like, downplay this. They can't complain about anything because this is, like, everything that we love about, like, 3D Nintendo platformers. They can't say it doesn't offer anything fresh, new, and exciting because it obviously does. They can't say that it doesn't, like, that it doesn't look good because it does. It's just been this, like, really amazing thing over the past couple of weeks, like, seeing this game become more and more beloved and more popular, and, like, seeing this trailer and just seeing everything they're doing with it, and just seeing, like, people become so enthusiastic about it. Right now there isn't really any bad coverage of Donkey Kong Bonanza at all, and this is hot on the tail. 10 years ago, like, you wouldn't hear a positive thing about Tropical Freeze. So, like, that's the change in culture is very palpable. It's very noticeable. I've been pointing it out for a long time, but, like, we are reaching the point where it's becoming normalized for gamers to, like, openly be into, like, to be into stuff like this. It's not, like, stigmatized like it was in the 2000s. Like, another decade of this, and the PlayStation and Xbox brand is just going to completely collapse. Like, these games are becoming more and more popular, and they're becoming impossible for game journals and YouTubers to write off. Like, this is just only one example of the inevitable.